Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Rob and I'm joined by my good buddy and partner, Bob Ostrom. Say hello, Bob.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
All right, so today we're going to just cover a really quick topic that we want to address as it relates to just some things that we've been doing, right, Bob? And then we want to launch into a little bit of a quick tutorial today, correct?
Oh, nice. Yeah, so we were going to talk about blending, but first, Rob, before we get
So
into
sorry to
that,
burst the bubble, dude.
well, first I want to just welcome everybody back from the holidays. And I don't care what time of year you're going to watch this thing. People, for people who are subscribed, this will make sense. If you pick this up later on in the summertime, you're going to be like, what holidays are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Where are these guys coming from?
Rob and I took some time off over the holidays just to kind of be with our families, and I hope you guys did too. I really enjoyed myself. My two kids came back from college. It was great. I had just had a great time. It was really nice hanging out with the family. My folks came from Florida to visit. So I took a couple of weeks off, and a funny thing happened during those couple of weeks, Rob.
No, really? Like,
I know this isn't
say it isn't so.
I know this isn't news to you, but I thought, let's talk about this. Let's air it out right now so that nobody gets confused and everybody understands what's going on. We had some personnel changes over on Askility. Askility just, it was a little project that we were trying to get off the ground. It looks like it's probably not going to get off the ground for the time being. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have everything kind of shift from Askility, and I'm going to host it over here on Bob Teaches Art, and Rob is going to join me as a co-host on Bob Teaches Art. I'm so excited about that. This is I'm just,
he hasn't abandoned me. I feel like, this is great. You come back from the holidays and it's like, yeah, we don't need you anymore.
Well, for years I've been flying solo over here on Bob Teaches Art, and I think it's the coolest thing ever that you're going to come over here and help me out. And I'm really sorry about Askility. It's just one of those things. It happens. Sometimes things, unforeseen things pop up. And so we just felt like it was too difficult to continue to make things happen there. So because we've got a following here and, all the structure is completely set up over here, we decided like, instead of, trying to jumpstart or whatever, we would just bring it over here, and you guys can just follow us on a weekly basis. We're going to be having all kinds of new stuff coming in here. So for Askility, if you want to go over there and check out the stuff, feel free. It'll be up there for a while. Who knows how long? We may even come back to it at some point, but for now, Bob Teaches Art is going to be headquarters, and this is where all the good stuff is going to be happening.
Right. We just wanted to eliminate the confusion just so that folks didn't understand why we were just kind of like bouncing back and forth between both environments. So right now, it's Bob Teaches Art. That's the homeland. That's where we are. That's our headquarters right now.
Right. And so I apologize for steering everybody in one direction and then steering you all back again. Yeah, sometimes those
Won't start, 10-yard penalty.
Sometimes those things happen. But the good news is that you're still going to be able to get all the same quality content. We're hoping to improve the quality now that I've got, Rob as my co-host here. So I can't wait to get started on that. This will be our first one of the year, Rob. So let's get rolling. Today we are looking at gradients. Isn't it right?
Well, actually, gradients in concert with and in combination of using blend modes, because I think blend modes are really kind of like the untapped talent of Photoshop. It's really good stuff, and it's where we have the ability to really integrate stuff pretty quickly, really easily, and to come up with some kind of cool looking results too. Some can kind of a little weird. Others have really some useful purpose behind them. But blending modes, I think, are really the unsung heroes of Photoshop work. So I want to just share with you a quick technique on how to make that work, what it looks like, and what you could do in potentially your own artwork as well.
All right, so let's pop on the screen share, Rob, and show everybody what we're talking about.
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump on over to Photoshop, and I'm in Photoshop World right now. I don't know if we need to do, let's see.
You got to hit that little screen share now, little green screen share.
I forget to do that stupid thing. I mean, it's like, get your act together, please.
All right.
Woohoo. So a holiday break does not necessarily mean that I've lost my mind. But in any event, so here's the deal. Plain white screen, nothing going on. I'm just going to quickly reset my colors here super fast. If I get organized, there we go, black and white. So using a gradient tool is not that big a deal, right? You just hit, in most cases, you just hit G for gradient, or in the toolbar, you can see it right there, and you just, click and drag and create gradients all day long. And that's cool. I mean, you can mix it up by like selecting a couple different colors, and I'm going to do that real quick here too, by the way. Let's just get this out of the way. Like, I don't know, red and blue, because, that's how I'm just kind of feeling it. So I'm just going to switch this out or maybe red and green, because we just came off the holidays, Bob. What do you think?
I feel like red and green is going to make a horrible brown. And
well, it depends, right? So I mean,
there it is.
Exactly. This is kind of nasty world, right?
Yeah.
But where things can get interesting super fast is all you got to do is know that blending modes allow you to digitally mix colors inside of Photoshop.
Right.
I don't care if you're using, in this case, the gradient tool, or using a brush or fill methods inside of Photoshop. But just know this. So we have blending modes that can occur both at the tool level and blending modes that can occur at the layer level inside of Photoshop. I'm going to show you what a blending mode at the tool level looks like. So again, ridiculously nasty colors here, I get it, but here's the deal. With the gradient tool, if you look at the control bar, the options bar inside of Photoshop, you'll notice that we got a blending mode and it's set to normal, right? And just like everything else, the blending modes for your layers are actually usable, right? They have the exact same sort of blending options available to you in the tool. So with the gradient tool active, if I just switch this out to the difference, so it wasn't normal, it's not anymore, because as soon as I start clicking and dragging,
whoa,
you get this kind of thing going on. And this could be like really interesting really quick. And change colors, right? So I mean, I don't want red and green anymore. Maybe I want like blue. And I'll just switch the foreground and background, and I'll make
this has a very 60s feel to it to me.
Oh, wait till you see. So, I mean, I could start getting...
Oh, man, it's like Star Trek. Ah.
Yeah, exactly. It gets all like really weirded out and psychedelic and stuff. So, in short order, two things happened. I just simply modified colors that I wanted to use for these blends, right, or using with the gradient tool. But then you use the blending mode to just basically tweak the way that the tool performs in, I misspoke. It tweaks the way that the colors react and behave with one another. And then if you really want to get nasty with it, you take like a distortion filter like polarize. Let's get in there. Polar coordinates. And I'm just going to set that to polar to rectangle. Click OK, and then you get like these swooshy looking things.
Nice.
You hit that a couple of times, and you get like that kind of stuff happening. So I mean, you just hit it with the gradient tool, and you change the mode from normal to anything. I mean, to create really psychedelic stuff like this, you got to really go to difference. And the other one, I think, if not mistaken, should be exclusion. So if I change the way that this works, I can absolutely create some pretty interesting stuff literally in just a couple of seconds. Click, drag, boom, you're done, and you get that sort of thing happening. So blending modes as it relates to how tools perform and the results of mixing pixels on the canvas inside of Photoshop that way. So that's a tool-based operation, but what about a layer-based operation? So, one thing that I thought I would share with you guys really super quick is how to create your own little star field.
Nice.
So this time of the year, it's great because if you look out on the night sky when everything's clear, you got a gazillion stars that are out there, but we can create that same sort of effect inside of Photoshop. And all I've really done here is really just a couple of things. One, it's pretty obvious that I've got a gradient here, right? I mean, I've got this darker blue. I don't know how well that shows up if I zoom in a little bit. Can you see the stars now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got, the darker blue at the top. You got a lighter blue at the bottom, trying to create that dusk or twilight look and feel.
I feel like you might be making fun of me because you saw me like wiping my screen trying to get the dust.
Dude, clean your screen.
But no, they're stars.
Right. So all I did, there was no blending mode as far as the gradient for the night sky is concerned, but I do have a gradient. I'm sorry, a blending mode as it relates to the star field itself. So if I open up my group 1 right here, you'll see that I've got a level here that actually controls just how many stars I want to see.
I see.
And I'll show you how to do that super quick. I don't want to get into like, the mechanisms of working with levels command per se, but just to
get into all that stuff later on. Let's focus on blends today. I love what you're doing here.
Exactly. So how did I build this? Actually, pretty quick and easy stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the eyedropper just to quickly sample the colors that I had up there, so that way I don't have to think about recreating all of this, just so I can show you guys what I did. There's my foreground color, and there's my background color. And what I'm going to do is set up a brand new layer, and then I'll just dial in that gradient, and I'll just do something kind of ridiculous like this, right?
Okay. So there's the blend. Got it.
Yep. So there's your basic blend, not a big deal. And in fact, I got to remember, put the tool back in its original position. So there. There we go.
I thought that was kind of neat. That's not a bad color thing.
Yeah, not quite Twilight, but that's me being
yeah.
an idiot. So the second thing you got to do, in order to create that starfield looking approach, all you got to do is just add a layer. I'm going to hit D or Delta on my keyboard, and that resets the foreground background chips to black and white respectively. All you need is a layer filled with black. Well,
okay, got it. So I filled my layer with black.
Yeah, so how do you get all that other stuff in there? Well, it's actually really easy, and one technique that I like to use is immediately convert that black layer to a smart object, and I'll show you why later. So now that I've got a black smart object inside of Photoshop, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with a filter. The filter for this is just simply using noise, and it probably is going to remember the noise input that I had from last time, but I'm just going to add noise to this, and 30%. So I'm going to let that go. So 30% is probably what you want to hit. You can see this looks really nasty. It kind of looks like, well,
it's like a carpet.
Well, exactly.
Looks like the back seat of my Volkswagen.
Or back in the 80s, that looked like my television screen at 2 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so I've got a 30% amount of noise applied to that, but two things you just got to watch real quickly. One of them is Gaussian. If you set this to uniform, it just doesn't look that great. It doesn't have the same net effect when you're done.
Right. So you want something a little more random.
Yeah, I want something that's a little bit more randomized. And then the second thing is monochromatic, because if you don't, what'll end up happening is that you'll actually end up with variants of colors. So sometimes you'll have a pixel that's green, blue, purple, pink, or whatever.
Right. So if you take a close look at the little add noise screen field there, you can see that.
So if we zoom in, right there. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see what that looks like, and that's kind of nasty. There isn't a star field in the universe that's that multicolored. So
it doesn't look like the backseat of my Volkswagen. Now it does.
We're not going there.
There we go.
We're not going there. Again, just added noise to a black filled layer, and I just dialed in, and you guys can see that it's 30% Gaussian at monochromatic, and I'll let that go. So this is where the magic really happens. This is right. So this doesn't really look all that impressive at all, right? Until we use the concept for blending modes. And what I'm going to do, because I have to just make an adjustment on my panel here real quick. Notice that my star field layer, in fact, I'm probably going to just call that stars, since it would be nice to be organized. So I've got my star layer. I've got my gradient layer underneath that, right? Simple gradient layer. The only thing I need to do is just change out the blending mode. So because I want to reveal more of the luminous pixels, and I want to just dive off anything that's in the shadow or the black area of my layer for my star layer here, the blending mode of choice for this would be screen. Ta-da! Okay. And so I get to see the gradient. Yeah. Right, yeah, so it's kind of like peering through. So now all of the luminous pixels, anything that's got a certain gamma rate to it, is now going to start showing up. But the problem is...
too many stars.
Too many stars. So this is where I use the levels command to help in that process. So having said that, this is what you do. At the half circle at the bottom, this is where your adjustment layers are going to be showing up. So if I click that, I want the levels command. Now, out of the gate, it's not going to do anything. Two things, there's just two things you need to do. I want to make sure that the change of my levels, in other words, the intensity of luminance pixels, or the decreasing that by using the black and white sliders here. Here, look, this is what I mean. If you move the white sliders to the left, more luminous pixels are going to be showing up. If you move it to the right, you're going to dive that out. Conversely, or I should say as a consequence of that, the black slider, if I move that to the right, then more of those less luminous pixels begin to dive away, and you end up with this. Now, if you're looking carefully, you'd say, all right, Rob, so great, you've reduced the amount of noise, but I also killed that gradient. See what I mean?
I do see what you mean. It's black, Rob.
Yeah, man, I don't want that.
How did that happen? I feel cheated. I feel cheated by this whole thing.
Rob, you're lying to me. No, I'm not. It's just I told you there were two things you need to do.
Fix it.
All right, so the sliders are something I'm going to come back to. The first thing I'm going to do is actually group the layer, the level, so it only affects the star layer. Gotcha. So right now, that level command is running across all of the layers.
Everything that's underneath it is affected.
That's right. So the way that you got to clip it is the process. So you got two ways you could do this. I could do a clipping mask, or a clipping layer is how I like to call it, because that's what it used to be called. Or if you hit the Option or Alt key on your keyboard, Mac or PC, I'm going to put my mouse cursor right between those two layers. You see that downward facing arrow with the white box on it?
Yes, it's very tiny, but I do see it.
Yeah, this is just a shortcut. You could do this either way. Both techniques work. But what I've done now, you can see the two things happen. One, the label, right? The label for levels 2 kind of like indented a little bit.
I see that.
Secondly, the icon for the downward facing arrow now just showed up. So what this means is any change in levels is only going to affect the layer immediately below it. The change that's going to happen is only going to affect the layer immediately below it. So this is the key. If I take my white slider now, yes, I get brighter stars. If I take my black slider, yes, I can reduce the number of stars. But now it's only affecting the star layer and not the gradient layer in the background. So if I dial this down to something ridiculous, I'm going to take that white slider all the way over to the right, black slider all the way over to the right some more. Now that's looking like a star field that could be impressive. So
I love that.
I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, that's a cool little trick. I like that one.
Yeah, so if you zoom in, and this is the key of working with the levels command this way, and to be honest with you, to working with smart objects this way. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if I go to my smart object layer, right now it says stars, right? There's a smart filter applied to that. So if you wanted more noise, or if you wanted to reduce the amount of noise, the good news with the way that this is set up, you just English, Rob, you double-click the noise object, then I can add more noise. That will give me more stars, or in this case, a hyperdrive.
This is like just as you're getting it. Yeah, you put that blur mode on this.
Exactly. Or I can just totally cut it back, and I could just be totally devoid of stars. So I got to take that back to just less. This is really hard when you're dragging it with a mouse like that. Okay, so that's 33.6. I think I had like 30%. So if I could take it down a little bit more, click
I feel like you could highlight that number, Rob, and maybe just type in.
Yeah, you can. You totally can. So this is just me kind of getting wonky with the mouse, right? So I mean, I can get in there and I can say, I don't know, like 29%. I could totally do that. You can see that there's fewer stars that show up if I zoom in, but man, it looks so much better. And it's really easy to do, and you could totally manipulate even the transparency of it. So if you like the stars, but you kind of want to reduce them a little bit, that's easy. Just get into the opacity for that particular layer and just knock that down a little bit too. So you can totally control not just the number of stars that you want, you can control their luminance values, and you can control their opacity just to reduce the overall effect in the artwork. But like, you know, in my view, again, it just comes down to the principle of working with this concept known as blending modes inside of Photoshop. But man, it's really cool stuff, and it doesn't take a whole lot of work to make it happen either.
Yeah, I love that. That's an excellent lesson. Thanks for sharing that with us, Rob.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, all right, you guys. So that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Come back and join us next week. We'll have some new stuff for you. Again, we're going to be stationed over at bobteachesart.com. We've got a whole bunch of new stuff coming from you, or coming for you.
That's right.
For you. That's right. Also, Rob, I know at the risk of sounding like a broken record, we do have a class that's coming up soon for our local students. Can you tell them where to go and how to get there?
Absolutely, yeah. So just again, to talk about it really quick, we have a seminar that we're doing on web graphics, mastering web graphics in Photoshop, and that's going to be conducted over at the Holly Springs Cultural Center, and that's going to be taking place at, I believe, 6:30, and that's February 8th over at the Holly Springs Cultural Center. That's
going to be great. I was just driving by there the other day. Yeah, it's a little but one thing I hate about that is when you get in there trying to make that left turn coming out, I'll forget it. Just go. I don't know what I'm talking about when you get there.
You'll see. We'll see. We'll get there. But listen, we're really jazzed about this this event that we're conducting for the first time live together. You know, so this ought to be a real treat.
Yeah, we're gonna have
exactly. So we'd look forward to having you guys join us. So sign up now. Sign up now.
Right. So if you're thinking about bringing your graphics online, we're going to be looking at all kinds of neat stuff, and we're also going to bring this class to the website. So if you guys don't live in the area and you can't make it to Holly Springs, I know it's a long ride for some of you guys.
Right.
We will be bringing this to Bob Teaches Art. We're working on it right now. It will be a little bit more expanded because we can cover more ground on the website than we can actually in person, because our time is going to be slightly limited in person. But that doesn't mean you're not going to learn a lot when you come there.
So there's no excuse for not joining, regardless. Live or online.
There, or we will see you here.
That's right. And as always, if you have a question, a comment, or concern, I would encourage you guys to go over to bobteachesart.com, drop a note, send an email, and let us know what you're thinking. And we'd love to have you, as I said before, love to have you guys join us. So please do.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about some of the material that we've covered, or you want to see something covered that we haven't covered yet, we're open to suggestions there too. So
by all means,
come see us.
In any event, Bob, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to join you today.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you next week.
Take care, guys.